Hi, and welcome to this live reading from The Crown of Stones, Magic Scars by C.L. Schneider, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue. The swirling rectangular band of colored lights grew smaller. Collapsing in upon themselves, they disappeared into blackness with a pop. Then the blackness disappeared, the magical doorway closed, and Prince Melek Rourke was left staring out across a bleak, icy plateau at a line of rocky, snow-capped peaks in the near distance. At the base, a swath of tall, willowy pines bent and swayed as a biting wind swept down out of the mountains. Tearing through the forest, it blew unfettered across the flat, harsh terrain. It ruffled the sleeves of his sleek white tunic, finding its way into bare skin and making him shudder. At his right, a young, dark-haired boy bowed low. "Welcome to Langor, my lord prince. How was your trip?" "My trip," Melek replied, "was exactly 6 seconds long, and I forgot my coat. Again." "I'm sorry to hear that, my lord. Perhaps you'll remember it next time." "Perhaps I'll remember it if traveling from the beach to the mountains in the blink of an eye ever becomes a little less disconcerting." As if sensing a degree of instability to the prince's mood, the boy moved on. "If you'll follow me." Turning from the view, Melek climbed up the wide front steps of his brother's keep. They tapered at exactly halfway, narrowing steadily to no more than a footbridge. Crossing it, his long cavalier strides became more measured as he stared over, first at the dark moat that ringed one side, then the sheer drop that bordered the other. As he reached the threshold of the towering entranceway, he paused. The boy stopped and looked back. "Is something wrong, my lord?" The prince shook his head, but he didn't move. Here, in this spot, more than any other in the entire labyrinth of Darkhorn, he could hear them. They were the condemned, forced to work the mines deep in his brother's dungeon, the poor souls whose lives consisted of endless pain. The echo of their cries carried up through a gap in the rock clear as day. It was a haunting sound that never failed to stop Melek in his tracks. "There's a Rellan man in the mines," he said to the boy, "a prisoner by the name of Kane. Do you know him?" "I'm afraid not, my lord. I rarely go past the guard post, and when I do," his gaze lowered, "I try not to look at anyone." Melek nodded. He motioned for the boy to start walking, and they moved inside. They traveled deep into the castle, through shadowy stone alcoves and endless arched hallways, past grand vaulted chambers whose ceilings were so tall no light could touch them. Winding up a set of black stone stairs, they continued down one tapestry-lined hall after another. Perched high above the archways, somber granite statues marked each junction. Their warped, beastly visages loomed in forewarning over all who walked beneath. Halting at a set of floor-to-ceiling double doors, the boy looked regretfully back at the prince. "I'm sorry, my lord. It's their eyes." "Excuse me?" "That's why I don't look at the prisoners. There's madness in their eyes. It scares me." With a grunt, his spindly arms pushed the doors open. "The king is expecting you." Melek muttered his thanks. Leaving the austere hallway behind, he slipped inside to utter contrast. Bright and spacious, a good half of the room consisted of a curved, open-air balcony complete with white marble benches and a white stone bathing pool. Steam rose from the water. Vines of winter berries hung from an iron trellis at the head of the pool, giving the pale decor a splash of red. The roofed portion of the chamber was more functional, with shelves of reference books and a large writing desk crowded with maps and papers. A raging hearth, whose flames consumed an entire wall, kept the wintry air at bay. The silent guards posted discreetly in each corner kept all else in check. Melek stopped in front of the flames. Soaking up their warmth, he declined to step out onto the balcony where King Draken stood, looking over the edge, seemingly unbothered by the snow falling on his head. "My lord king?" he said. Draken turned. Tall and arresting in flowing black trousers and an unbelted gray tunic, the king came eagerly forward to greet his half-brother. He offered a smile, but the gesture made his majestic features far more ravenous than welcoming. Well, Malek, he said, you look well. How are the repairs coming along in Cabri? Slow, Malek answered. She's starting to resemble a city again, but we have a ways to go. And many villages across the realm are still in shambles. Forget them. I've already given the order to have them burned. A slight widening of Malek's eyes betrayed his shock. May I ask why? The repairs are a waste of wood. It takes considerably less resources to simply resettle the villagers elsewhere. Besides, we need that farmland. You know how hard it is growing crops on these mountains. I understand your logic, my king, but that land is all some of them have left. That land isn't theirs, Draken replied, oblivious to the veiled distress in Malek's voice. It never was. The Relans were invaders. They've trespassed on Lingorian soil for generations. But no more. I did what my father and my grandfather and all the Lingorian kings before me failed to do. I righted the wrong done to our kind. I reclaimed our land. What to do with it is my decision. Where to put the violators is yours. Relocate them as quickly as possible, brother, by whatever means necessary. Eyes down, Malek nodded. I could use more men to rebuild Cabri. That will be difficult, Draken winced. The Shinri are in high demand. I wasn't talking about slaves. Then I definitely can't help you. Every available man has been recruited to stock my new fleet. My campaign to take the northern lands must be underway the minute my ships are ready. Then let me use the Relans. We, Malek said, fixing his mistake, claimed their realm with great force. If we're going to allow them to continue to live there under your rule, the least we can do is let them help rebuild. The least we can do? Draken echoed, frowning. I'm afraid, brother, that the Relan blood running in your veins is you taking your position as regent there a tad too seriously. Just because the peasants grovel and whine doesn't mean you need to answer every single petition they make. They want work. Malek stepped closer. With all due respect, I don't understand why that's a problem. Of course you don't. Draken clasped his brother's arms firmly. If you let them work, the next thing they'll want is pay, then fair treatment. Then they'll refuse to show up when they're ill, and the list goes on and on. With a shake for emphasis, he let Malek go. Before you know it, they'll be rioting in the streets and you'll have no choice but to put them down. Although, Draken drawled, caressing the slim black beard outlining his jaw, a thinning of the herd before they can start an uprising does have some appeal. The Relan people are in no position to rise up against anything. They've accepted our presence as best they can. All they want is to restore their homes as we promised, as I promised. Really, Malek? He sneered. A Lingorian keeping a promise to a Relan? Smiling thinly, Malek walked over and sat down in the chair in front of his brother's desk. I don't wish to be rude, but can I ask why you've summoned me? Must there be a reason? Is it so inconceivable that I simply wish to spend time with my baby brother? It has been a while since you were last home. Almost imperceptibly, Malek tensed. You called me to Darkhorn not 3 weeks past to look over the plans for your fleet. So I did. And if the Kalish weren't so fucking lazy, I might actually have ships instead of plans. You have some pull at the yard, Malek. Inspire your stepfather and the worthless sloths he employs there to get moving. You commissioned my stepfather on the quality of his work. The amount of vessels you've ordered built takes time. Then he needs to double his efforts. I want his men working night and day. Crafting a ship requires considerably more care than a wagon. If the labor is performed hastily or without precision, it won't be a wheel you lose, it will be a crew. Abruptly, Draken's manner changed. Get it done, Malek, or I will. Yes, my king. Draken picked up a pile of papers off his desk. He dropped them in Malek's lap. What's this? Malek asked. A proposal of marriage. It seems you've turned all the women's hearts aflutter. Malek's eyes lifted. His face was still. A proposal from which realm? Several, actually. But there is a recently widowed duchess from Dorte that sounds rather fun. Her dowry borders on obscene. I hear her morals do as well. She sounds charming. Yes, Draken laughed. Look them over, pick one, pick several if you like. You're letting me choose? I've already weeded out the objectionable ones. Just bear in mind the future when you select your bride. You might be High King yourself one day. Have you decided to announce it then? I've heard the people are growing concerned that you have no official heir. Are they now? Draken's lips curved into a sly smile. It fell swiftly. Find a wife, Malek. Then we'll discuss your aspirations and my expectations. The doors opened again. Swinging slowly apart, the enormous slabs had a way of making all who entered seem no taller than a child, an effect even more exaggerated by the size of the woman passing between them. Dark of skin and hair and small of stature, the slender body of Langor's queen seemed to get lost even in the folds of gauzy fabric trailing off the back of her gown. Rustling like soft pink waves, the train flowed behind her as she strode gracefully across the room. Standing, Malek set the papers on the desk. He bowed as she drew close. Your Grace, you look lovely, as always. The Queen's exotic round face lightened with a smile. Malek, a letter clutched in her hand, she tucked it to the side and embraced him. No titles, cousin, she said, holding him tight. Not from you. As you wish, Malek pulled back. It's good to see you, Neela. I'm sorry I missed you last time. They said you were unwell. I trust you're feeling better. She's fine. Draken moved up beside them. He shoved a drink in Malek's hand and turned harsh eyes on his wife. I left orders not to be disturbed. Neela offered him a deep curtsy. Forgive me, my lord. A letter has arrived. The messenger said it was urgent. Draken snatched the envelope from her hand. Since when does my queen stoop to delivering messages? Isn't that what we have slaves for? Shaking his head, Draken snapped the seal on the envelope and removed the sheet of paper inside. As his dark vulturine eyes roamed the page, his mouth fell open, and then a leisurely, gratified smile slipped out. Then, outright laughter. Draken crossed to the table, poured himself a drink, and could barely contain himself to swallow. Malek watched him. Something I should know? Draken tossed the message on the table. It's a report from the prison on the western edge of the realm, the prison where he is. Draken eyed Malek for a reaction. He gave him none. A scheduled report or something of consequence? Oh, it's definitely of consequence. Turning slightly, Draken beckoned to his wife. Neela, my love, join us in a toast. As the queen approached the table, Draken filled another cup. Handing it to her, he raised his own high in the air. I would say may he rest in peace, but I believe it's more likely he's in pieces. Draken knocked his drink back in one eager mouthful. Malek took a less enthusiastic sip. Who or what exactly are we drinking to? He's dead, Draken announced. Ian Troy is finally dead. As Neela choked on her wine, Malek said calmly, How? Not how I'd like, Draken admitted. Once I finished expanding my realm, I'd thought to have him publicly beheaded in the celebration. It was going to be a grand affair, with dancing and juggling. I do so enjoy a good juggle, he grinned, nudging Malek. But that man always finds some goddamn way to mess up my plans. This must be a mistake, Neela cut in. Troy was transferred from his cell months ago. You said he'd been assigned to a workforce, not slated for execution. Defiance raised her voice. How did this happen? At the table, Malek picked up the letter. The mine collapsed, he said, reading it. A few bodies were pulled from the rubble, but... He looked up at Neela. Malek steeled his gaze and held hers as if trying to give her strength. There were no survivors. Drawing herself up, Neela turned on Draken. You swore if I turned him over, he would not be harmed. You hold me responsible for this? Draken shot back. The gods have been after Troy for his misdoings a long time, my dear. It appears they finally got tired of waiting. No, she argued. I have kept my vows. I have been your loyal wife. I honored our agreement. An agreement that included you sparing his life. Calm yourself, woman, Draken warned. I don't care that you slept with the man, but it's unseemly for a queen to be so agitated over the death of one dirty witch. Then what of my sister Elena? Am I allowed to be agitated over her? You vowed to let her go, yet she's still locked away right here under our very home. Her release hinged on you giving me sons, Draken countered. It seems we've both broken that vow, haven't we, my dear? Neela flinched. You are never going to let her go, are you? You are never going to let any of my people go. Your whore of a sister, Draken growled, lives and dies on my whim. You all live on my whim. In fact, I think I'll have the bitch dragged up here and gutted right now. I'm in the mood for a little pre-dinner entertainment. You bastard! Neela raised a hand to slap him. Draken moved faster. The back of his hand struck her face and Neela went reeling. The cup fell from her grasp. Red splashed across the pink of her gown as she tumbled into Malek's arms. He righted her gently. It's all right. No, it's not, she whispered. He's going to kill her, Malek. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but he will kill her. Malek took a breath. He looked at Draken. Elena, he said. Yes? Draken gestured at him impatiently. You said I could choose. I choose Elena Arcana. To marry? Draken let out a snort. You want to marry a prisoner? She has royal blood. Her father was a Rellan king. Her mother, Ilagar, was an Arulian princess, royalty in her own right before marriage made her Rella's queen. Thank you, Draken replied. I am very well of the lineage. Think of it, Malek said persuasively. What better way to pacify the Rellans than to release Elena and put her in a position of prominence? It could also go a long way toward winning the Arulians over to your side. I have the Arulians on my side. Not all of them. Many are still loyal to Aligar's memory and therefore to Rella. But a compassionate act such as this could sway their opinion. Malek let Neela go and approached Draken. I see few downsides to this match, Your Grace. Other than the fact that she's penniless? Malek squared his jaw. I'm not. Marriage will take care of that. Draken considered Malek's proposal a moment more. You may marry Elena, but I'll need something in return. I'll get you your ships. You will get me my ships, or I will have your stepfather's head. What I want, Draken said decisively, is your son. My what? Malek blinked. Since my wife has failed to provide me with my own, her sisters will do. Elena's firstborn will be fostered here by me. The boy will learn how to be a proper Lingorian, something you should have been taught a long time ago, brother. Pale, Malek bowed low. Yes, my king. Keep in mind, the Duchess might be yours as well if her dowry is as fat as she claims. Then you can pay for rebuilding Rella. That is, if your half Rella loins are enough to satisfy 2 wives. Draken flung his cup in the hearth and walked out. Malek turned to Neela. It was all I could think of. Thank you, she breathed, but I fear he won't keep his word. I'll convince him to let us marry now. The Rellans don't need a lavish affair. They need to know their princess is alive and see her home. Nodding, Neela swallowed, composing herself. I'm sorry about Ian. Don't be. Malek stepped back. Finishing his wine, he sat the cup down on Draken's desk. That man murdered countless of my people, not to mention he tried to kill my brother on more than one occasion. His callous tone startled her. I thought he was your friend. Don't mistake an alliance of convenience for friendship, Neela. Malek held his arm out for her. Ian Troy was an enemy of the realm, nothing more. I can only hope, wherever he is now, he's getting exactly as he deserves.